What's up? This is Ben Askren, two-time NCAA champion, two-time Hodge winner, and 2008 Olympian. Today we're going to do the basics of the cradle. So I figure if we're going to do any cradles, we have to start here, no matter what kind of cradle you're doing, inside cradle, outside cradle, and then either of those in any type of scramble, which is where it becomes really difficult. We got to get the basics right. And even when I'm watching high-level college wrestling and I see cradles not working, the main reason they don't work is because even at that level, a lot of people aren't doing the cradle details right. So I didn't really realize this when I was competing myself, but I realized it more when I started trying to teach it later to kids. And if the kids couldn't do the basics right, they're really gonna struggle with any cradle you're doing. And once they got the basics and they really understood those and stuck by them, then the cradles became a lot easier. Point number one in the basics of the cradle is elbows on the neck and the knee. And this is, at the collegiate level, probably the one that I see messed up the most. Guys start sliding up the leg a lot. So let's see what that looks like. So if I'm here, Weston can be in different positions, right? He could be somewhere where I can barely get a cradle on him, right? Where I'm really stretched out, where I've just got my fingertips on him. Or he could step his leg up right next, right? And then, now this obviously is an easy cradle, and my arms will almost go all the way up to my elbows here. Okay, so depending on where he is, but my elbows stay in the same spot. And the thing that I see messed up the most is guys sliding up the leg. So once I come up the leg a little bit here, now for Weston to bust out of it, boom, becomes really simple. If I'm on the knee though, for him to bust out of it, becomes really difficult. So, I'm really focused on the elbow, on the neck, and the knee, not sliding up here. And then, it's not at a college level, but at a youth level, kids might also rotate their lock around. They might do one of these, right? Where obviously, in that point, neither elbow is on a neck or a knee. It's just like a really strange cradle that's probably not gonna work in any way, shape, or form. And you see that at a youth level. But the point number one, basics of the cradle, elbows on the neck and the knee, and they gotta stay glued there. Point number two is your lock. Okay, so number one, never any thumbs. So I always put my thumbs next to my finger. I think if I'm in a cradle and I'm pinning someone and I'm doing some gimmick like this, they're just gonna do that, and then my thumb's gonna hurt, and then I'm after gonna release the lock. So don't ever give them anything to grip onto. So it's fingers, palms, and then butterfly. And butterfly can be anywhere from the wrist all the way up to the elbows. Okay? And just as a general basis, when I'm teaching cradles to a new group, no one ever wants to get as tight as they should. I don't know why it is, but everyone wants to stay down here or down here. And especially if we're talking kids, their bodies haven't filled out, they're not strong enough, they need to be up, way up higher, okay? So, fingers, palms, butterfly. And the second part of that is your lock is like a zip tie, okay? It can always get tighter, it can never get looser. So I can go from fingers to palms to butterfly. But once I get there, I don't go back. So my lock is like a zip tie. Actually, let me use you to show that, Weston. So let's go outside cradle. So his leg steps up. So if his leg is farther away from his head, I could just barely get to my fingers, okay? That's fine, right? If I can get a lock on my fingers, that's fine. I don't necessarily need to stay there though. So if I go here and then I go here, right now my lock is tight and I can slide with my hands. And if my lock continues getting tighter, I can slide up to my butterfly lock. So, number one, no thumbs. Number two, none of your shenanigans, fingers, palms, or butterfly. Number three, it's like a zip tie. I can get tighter, but I can't get looser. It wasn't until 2015 that I really recognized this detail number three, and that's something I call the cradle line. So if we go back to point number one, we're talking about the neck and the knee. So if, okay, Weston's here. The cradle line is if I draw a point on his neck and a point on his knee, that is the cradle line, okay? And so wherever his knee steps up, his leg steps up, there's the cradle line, right? It's the neck and the knee. That's the line I want. Now, the collarbone should be on the cradle line. And so let me show you just a bad example of what a lot of kids do. They get all the way up here, okay? And so now you see my collarbone is all the way up here, and now I'm obviously covering his shoulder. So it's literally impossible for me to even pin him because I'm literally covering his shoulder with my body. A lot of kids do this. If I just flip sides here and I go outside cradle, okay, on this one, a lot of people don't get to the cradle line. So the cradle line is right here. You see that line right there. This is tremendous because they're actually drawing the line. Usually I just talk about it, now you guys are being able to see this line, okay? And they stay back here. And so you notice I'm covering his shoulder, this one this time. I'm not to the cradle line. And so it also is gonna be easy for him to break out of it, right? So for me to get to the cradle line, boom, I gotta slide down there. And now if you were able to get a drone shot, you would see his shoulders opened up on that one and I could put him on the mat. Point number 4 on the basics of the cradle, something that every parent in America is gonna love, squeeze, right? If you've been in a restaurant, you've heard squeeze. Weston has had squeeze at the top of his lungs. You gotta squeeze them the right way though. People mess this up. When they think cradle, they just squeeze with their hands, right? They get their hands. I'm trying to squeeze them with my whole body. So I'm getting my lats involved, getting my biceps involved, and right, I'm doing this. If you're squeezing with just your hands, it won't be effective. You have to squeeze with your whole body, biceps, lats, really crunching, taking the space out. And then if we do point 1 right, and we're on the neck and the knee, it's really gonna make it tight on his neck. And so this is inside, outside, again, doesn't matter. These are the basics of the cradle, any cradle, okay? So right here, right there, I squeeze, and usually when I put this on, people are like, oh my gosh, I've never ever felt a cradle like that. So if we go outside, same concept. I'm here, I'm squeezing, it's right on his neck. It's nice and tight. It's cutting off some circulation. The ref is never gonna assume that you can actually choke someone from here because it's a cradle and it's been done forever. But if you do it correctly, you're gonna cut off some circulation.